Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Alehorn Podcast. This is episode 9. My guest today is Joe Eldridge. He is the founder of Shadebeast Records in Athens, Georgia. He is also a part-time Oreo reviewer and all-around good dude. So, how are you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on this.
Yeah, man, no problem. So, just full disclosure for everyone listening, I am a Shadebeast stockholder. So, you can take what I say with a little bit of bias, but, you know, it is what it is.
Yep. How long? We've been friends for about 3 years now. I think I met you in 2017.
Yeah. I remember we were playing the show at the Orange Peel, and somehow I found out that you were coming. I just sent you some tickets because I was like, this dude's coming from Athens, Georgia. It's like a 3-hour drive, so, you know, why not? Yeah, I just kind of went from there, so.
My brother and I were doing like a brothers weekend up in town, and just looked to see if there were any heavy shows in town, and we were lucky enough that you were playing at the Orange Peel. So I think that's how it started. I reached out to you on Facebook or something like that.
Yeah, it was definitely on Facebook. But I remember the logistics of it. Yeah, it's actually, the video is on YouTube, like the full show also, if you ever want to reminisce.
Cool.
So the only problem at the Orange Peel is like when you're a band our size, it kind of looks like Mystery Science Theater 3000 on the videos sometimes, you know?
Right.
So it's just like a few heads in the front and, you know, couple in the back, and yeah. But, you know, it's fun. They pamper you really well up there too, so it's fun to play every once in a while and just kind of be well, I guess pampered is the word I'm looking for. They help you load up, they help you load out. You know, they do really good, thorough sound checks. It's fun to play up there, but I wouldn't do it all the time.
It's a really spacious venue too. There's like plenty. It seems like there's big doors for loading in and out, and there's parking right in the back. So,
they got an elevator downstairs. You park over there on the side, and there's an elevator down there. You just throw your stuff in the elevator and go up with it. Yeah, it's a sweet load in, man. I'd say it's a lot better than hiking equipment up steps, which I've done more than I'd like to. But you know, that's where the show is. That's where the show is. You do what you got to do.
Yep. The curse of being a drummer.
Yes. Oh, dude, don't even. At least Micah, he sings, but he's also a guitar player. So at least he has some heavy shit to lug. Also, he's not just he doesn't show with a microphone bag and, you know, stand around and watch. But so that's a good thing.
You don't have an exclusive vocalist to that.
Yes, we all work hard to lug our shit around. Yes. So, man, what made you decide to start a record store in the first place?
It's a long and strange evolution, really. I mean, it's something that I intended to do on a long timeline, and I guess it sort of started by selling records on Facebook, through Facebook Marketplace in the early days. I was like, I'm trying to think of what the initial impetus was. I knew I wanted to start a record store at one point, but the problem is, how do you get inventory without just having a bunch of money to buy it out up front? So I started the journey of building up inventory by kind of flipping records on Facebook, and it went better than I expected. And around that time, I reached out to a couple labels like Southern Lord, Ripple, and Riding Easy, and asked what it took to buy wholesale. And basically, you just need a tax ID number and to be legitimately intending to sell them. So things snowballed really quick, and I wound up opening a web storefront with the name Shadebeast. I had a wholesale account, and before I knew it, the online thing was just going really well, and I was building up inventory. So I thought I should start building some fixtures for an eventual record store, like record bins and the stands that they stood on. So I had a room in my house that we set up as kind of like a prototype, so that if I found an inexpensive retail space to move into, I'd be ready to go. And I'd post pictures of that online, and people thought it was a real store, and they wanted to come by and browse. So we entertained that idea for about 3 months, people coming to the house and like shopping in the spare room in our house. which was funny. It was really cool and exciting, but people wouldn't show up when they said they would. It was kind of an by appointment only thing. Um, so there was simultaneously a demand for it and the awkwardness of people coming out to our house. So I found a inexpensive retail spot in Athens, in like a shared warehouse, um, artist space, like a one room spot with a locking door. So that was the very first shop there. So that's kind of a long explanation, but it just sort of materialized. Like I had the intention of heading in that direction, and one thing led to another, and it turned out to be fairly easy to get rolling. And just through hustling with Facebook posts and good pictures of records, it made people want to buy them. So that was the beginning.
I've always had a dream of having a record store with like a venue or performance space in it for like full bands.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere up here isn't really metal friendly per se.
Hmm.
There was one store that was pretty good. Like he had a lot of stuff in there, like a lot of metal stuff. Like he had a bunch of shirts, he had a bunch of like old like poster reprints. He had vinyl, CD, tapes. He had record players, stereo. This dude had it all, but the space was so small that you would like walk through and like knock shit over.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like tight, but he didn't make it. Well, I think part of the reason he didn't make it was he was pretty unorganized. I mean, like you would order a record and like 3 weeks later, he'd be like, "Hey, your record came in." It's like, dude, that came out 3 weeks ago. I already bought it somewhere else. So I mean, so the town's not. It's hard. It's a hard town.
Well, regardless of the town, it's not a really great idea, like business plan, to start a vinyl record store in that was 2017 or even now in 2020, especially if you're going to specialize in one genre of music. Um, because I say that because obviously physical media sales is down. It's kind of a thing of the past. These mediums are obsolete, and you hear these articles about how vinyl's outselling CDs and stuff. But I think what they're talking about is like the vinyl that Urban Outfitters sells. Like, um, I can't even think of any of those artists' names, but like those American Idol type singer songwriters, and
Yeah.
the perpetual sellers like the Eagles' greatest hits and Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon that they sell at Walmart and Barnes and Noble. That vinyl sells really well. But really niche vinyl and collector type stuff that like independent metal labels put out, another problem you run into is a huge amount of that moves is actually between the buyer and the label, or the buyer and the band. Like people have evolved to buying their records on Bandcamp from the band or directly from label sites like Relapse or Southern Lord. So to get back to my point, starting a physical record store and expecting people to kind of keep you in business is kind of a long shot. And the only reason that it really persisted in that initial store was because I it was immune to failure because it didn't need to make money. If we didn't sell a lot of records, we didn't get a lot of new records in. Luckily, it really worked out. We had a great, I think, a year and a half in that one spot, and then about a year ago, we moved to a true retail space in downtown Athens.
Is that where you're still at now? Is the retail space?
Yeah, we're close. We're hibernating right now because of the virus, but yeah,
Sure.
we're right downtown across from the University of Georgia on the main boulevard that goes through downtown Broad Street. So it's an ideal space. It's in a basement, which is really cool for a metal record store. It's
Mm-hmm.
literally subterranean. You come down the stairs, and we've painted it black, so you're entering the metal dungeon down there.
Do you get a lot of people just like passing by who like go down and just like browse and have no idea what the hell any of this shit is?
Yeah, and I have a feeling you've seen pictures of what it looks like in there.
Yeah, I have.
My partner Marcus set up an altar. There was this kind of funky shelf in there that looked like an altar. And we've got it set up with a skull and some upside down crosses and stuff. And the place is all black with a lot of upside down crosses throughout. So people will mosey on down there, and I don't know, probably 20% of the people that come down the stairs will look around and turn around and leave immediately. they they think that it's some kind of pagan rituals are happening down there or something, which is good because they weren't likely to buy anything anyway. So
Yeah.
good
Why
riddance.
waste your time? You
Yeah.
know. And I would have fun with something like that. I would probably do the same thing. Just to have a kick out of people coming down and looking at their faces when they realize they probably don't belong or might even get murdered by a cult or something down there.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a filter. Like you have to be sort of accustomed to heavy metal and the fact that it's mostly appearances, and there's nothing really
Sure.
sinister or evil. But to the uninitiated, you come down there and it does look like something bad is happening down there. I love it.
We need to get down there next year, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Me and Mike have been talking about getting down there to Athens playing, and I'll get to more of it later. But the festival was canceled this year. But I was going to talk to you some more about that later
Mhm.
on. But we couldn't do it. But I was hoping it would go good and shoot for 21. But anyway, yeah, I'll get to that later. So let's go. The name Shadebeast. So I envision this name as a overweight, bearded stoner doom fan drinking a beer either inside or on our covered porch. Is that pretty accurate?
Well, I like that name because it's kind of a double meaning thing. Like like Southern Lord, the label. When I first heard that back, God, it must have been the early 2000s. My initial thought was like an antebellum, like plantation owner guy, like a Southern Lord. And then after a couple minutes, it sunk in that the Southern Lord is actually like Satan, like the Lord of the Southern realm. So the Shade Beast is kind of like that. I think it could be like just an animal laying in the shade, like a cow, like a hippopotamus or something like that. But if you think about it for a second longer, it's a beast in the shadows, a shade beast. So I never really visioned it as a person. I think of it as sort of like an ambiguous, like creature of some sort, just out of the light.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's a way different vision than what I had. I just assumed it was just a metal fan, stereotypical look, which I pretty much fall into.
well, that is, yeah. You and I look fairly similar, and most of the men who listen to metal at this point resemble us, the bearded dudes, the beer drinking type guys. Um, But regarding the name, I mean, it really, like anything else, like naming an album or a band or a song, you just kind of brainstorm, trying to come up with something that hasn't been taken at this point because everything's been thought of.
Yeah.
And it kind of pushes you to hyphenate words or make words up. And I didn't want to make something up like a black metal band's name or something really complicated like that. So I think it literally took about 2 weeks of just kind of sticking words together. And when it hit on something that I thought sounded cool, I'd look it up, and lo and behold, there was a band called that, or there was already a store called that, or something. So it was a long process, but I think we nailed it because it's a good brand name. It sticks in your head. It's easy to remember, and most importantly, it sounds cool.
Yeah, sounding cool is always a good eye catcher for sure, at
Yeah,
least to
yeah.
even get people to click on your site or come in the store.
Related to that, when we first came up with that name, I sort of picked a logo, like picked a standard font from the free font library, one that I thought looked like the Germanic Old English type font, but a little sharper. And since that was sort of cast in stone, and we started printing things on it and printing shirts and stuff, I realized that typeface is used everywhere. So, especially back when we were just using the standard typeface, it was kind of embarrassing because I kept running into things that use the same exact font. Like just recently, I saw that Matt Pike's signature lace pickups, the Dirty Heshers, it's the exact same font, and it was not intended. Like I didn't mean to copy anything like that, but thankfully, with some graphics help, we've sort of modified it a bit so it's a true logo that's uses that same font, but it's been messed with a bit. So I think it's ours now.
Yeah, when we first started the band, like we went through a couple fonts, and then I found one that was like really cool, and the font name was Hyborian, obviously to do with like Conan and stuff like
Right.
that. And nobody was really using it, man. Like I never really saw anything in that font. And then like one day I was like at Lowe's or something, and there's a cover band in town, and this cover band used the exact same font for their stuff. So I was like, right then, I was like, you know what? I was like, this is fuck this. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not being associated with some damn cover band because I have the same font. So we eventually got David Paul Seymour to draw us up an original logo that it's a like one of a kind kind of look. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we're sticking with it because that wasn't cheap.
Yeah. I actually talked to him about that same thing. I was actually talking to him about drawing a logo at one point also. I think he did the Conan logo too, didn't he?
Yeah, he does a lot of work. He's pretty good friends with John Davis,
Yeah.
for what I understand. So yeah, he does a lot of work for them.
Yeah,
I think
but
he does shirts and stuff for him a lot. And I'm not so sure about album covers though.
well, I'm just talking about the Conan logo, like with the two sides, the sickles for the C and the end of the N. I think,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken, that might be a DPS drawn logo.
I don't know for sure, but it looks like his kind of work. So I would almost
Yeah,
bet it was. I need to contact him about being on one day anyway. So I'll find out.
good idea.
Yeah, I've met him. I met him here in Asheville one time. He came down. He was doing like a Q&A at Burial since he does all their artwork.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just like sat there and like shoot the shit with him for like an hour that night, and then like the next day he invited me back out to drink some more beer with him. So I was like, yeah, I'll come out. So beer was on the house. I was like, shit, I'll go. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
so we hit it off just talking about metal and stuff like that. So he's a cool dude. I like him.
Yeah. The Speaking of burial cans, I kind of was trying to collect those for a while.
There's a
But
lot of them.
it's really hard to get that beer here in Georgia. I think they stopped the distribution even to this state. And on top of that, they have like weekly releases. It seems like there's hundreds of different burial beers that come and go. So I lost the plot a while ago. I have about 40 burial cans with his artwork on it up here in my house, but I haven't acquired any more lately.
Dude, I live like 25 minutes away, and I couldn't even keep up if I wanted to. They're always like having like limited releases, and they
Hmm.
have a lot of stuff that's just in house you can buy. They don't even like distribute it to stores or nothing. So it'd be really hard out of state to get every single can.
Yeah. Well, the good news is here in Athens, we have lots of local breweries here, but we kind of are establishing a relationship with one called Academia, and they have a very similar sort of metal vibe about them. They're real sort of austere graphics with a bit of like pagan overtones, um,
Right.
and they have really cool releases, like seasonal ones and limited ones, and they've sort of collaborated with us on the shows that we sponsor. They're sort of co-sponsoring that and providing beers to the band and the um, the social club that we have associated with the store. They throw us cases of beer and stuff too. So we don't need burial anymore. We have our own brand down here.
Yeah, as for as metal as like burials, like artwork and stuff is, they don't really do a whole lot to promote like local metal stuff, which I'm always kind of surprised about. Like they'll jump on like the Decibel like beer and metal fest up in Philly and stuff or L.A. Like they're
Mhm.
all over that. But if it's like a local show or whatever, even like a big band coming through, they don't really have anything to do with that. I always thought that was kind of strange, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
their
surprising,
prerogative. They can do what they want, but
right? Well, the metal scene, the metal subculture doesn't have a lot of money tied up in it, so that may have something to do with it.
true. I did get them to sponsor like our little festival we do in November one time. It was worth it, man. They sent us this, they sent like some free beer for the bands. I mean, it was like their like Bud Light equivalent, like just
Mhm.
the everyday swill. And then
Such
they sent some like pretty premium stuff for the bar to sell. So yeah, they told me that was like one of the highest selling nights for beers when I got Burial to sponsor that festival because everyone just came for the burial. So I was like, sweet.
Cool.
So yeah. Well, let's move on to the sticker phenomenon. Um, dude, these stickers are like something else, man. Like they really took a life of their own. Like, how did even that idea get started? Like doing the
Well,
stickers with like really big artists.
it's kind of obvious they're just sort of a ripoff of like Shepard Fairey's style street art stickers, like the Andre the Giant phenomenon, or like the Obama Obey format. It's actually that's the actual format that we're using. So the original idea was just to come up with a sticker that we could give out with records and that people might stick around in their clubs, and initially print a lot of them and give them out and just sort of get the Shadebeast name on the bathroom walls of heavy metal clubs around the country and around the world. So the first three were drawn by my daughter. They're illustrated. The Matt Pike, the Filthy, and the Wino. And those were really popular. People liked them. We printed quite a few of them, but she was kind of slow in producing the drawings, and I wanted to get to the point where we were putting out one every week or two. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
switched to a silhouette sort of ink blot sort of format with by photoshopping photographs of people. And the first couple were authorized, like Pike and Wino gave the thumbs up to doing a sticker of them. And after a while, we like once Tom G. Warrior approved his sticker, I was like, all right, these musicians are actually kind of flattered and really dig them. So I didn't necessarily ask permission moving forward. And thankfully, people not only like them, but the people who are on the stickers actually kind of like them. And more often than not, they ask to have some sent to them, which is really cool. But it is a weird phenomenon. I think the stickers are the most popular thing that we do. Like, I think some people think that we're just like a street artist organization or something because they're overseas. People send me photographs of our stickers in nightclub bathrooms in Sweden and Germany and all over the United States. It's funny. It's really a testament to the interconnectedness of people that are into heavy music. Everybody kind of runs in the same circles and or on the same social media groups and things like that.
Yeah, I've put a few up myself, and we also carry some stickers with us when we play shows. I just put them out on a table, or if the bathroom hasn't been decorated with one yet, one usually goes up.
Yeah.
You know.
The problem with them is we do high quality vinyl stickers and they're easy to peel back off. So I think a lot of people place them, but then they get harvested back off by people who want them. The original idea was to print like thousands of these stickers and just sort of let them proliferate all over the place. But people really liked them and kept them and didn't want to stick them. So we sort of flipped it around and made them a little more limited and more like a collectible thing, I guess. So
Yeah.
at this point, we only print between 250 and 500 of every one, and people snatch them up pretty quick.
Yeah, I missed out on the like silver Black Sabbath series that you did.
We did the Iommi
So
one.
I used to keep up too, but I was like, man, I gotta order some records every time I get some. It's getting expensive.
Well, that's how we made them. People kept messaging me like, "How can I just get stickers?" And I'm like, "Well, technically, I don't think it's appropriate to be selling them because we're selling other people's image. We really just want them to be an
Right.
advertisement for the records that we sell that these people are on." So we made them available on the .com just with donation. You can grab a 6-pack of the stickers. But since we did that, usually they all go that way and there aren't a lot left over to give away with records. So that's when our printings got up to like 500 and 750. I think the big ones, I knew that Cliff Burton was going to be huge, so we printed 1,000 of those. Connie Burton, Cliff's sister, approved that one, so I didn't feel bad about doing it. She thought it was a cool tribute. So we went ahead and did 1,000 and made them available on the website. And I think that 1,000 was gone in about 2 weeks.
We have 3 of them in our band practice room. So
yeah,
I think you sent me a few in as like a sticker pack to like give out at shows or whatever.
yeah.
So we put one behind our bass player because it's like really intimidating looking,
Right.
you know.
Cool.
You know, it's got like a look of disdain.
The maybe it's the color red, but the Chuck Schuldiner one was massively. That one disappeared in a week. I mean, we made it available for direct purchase with a donation, and they just all sold. I barely gave any away with purchases. And we've reprinted Peter Steele one twice. Ladies love Peter Steele. The first printing was 500, and then last October we printed 1,000, and they're out there. So it's a strange phenomenon that our most popular thing is a thing that we don't really sell, but it's great publicity.
Yeah, getting back to the ladies and Peter Steele. The second time we played the Orange Peel, Typo Negative had just played there like I think a week or two before we did, and the sound guy was talking about metal bands, and he said that Peter Steele was like one of the biggest pain in the asses because he apparently found 2 ladies that would, you know, like to hang out with him in the back, per se. And the show ran like 45 minutes late because he got him to do what he wanted right at showtime. And when the sound guy went back there, be like, "Hey man, you're up," you know, he like opened the door and it was just all out there, you know. And he's like, "I'm busy. I'll just get out there when I'm done." But I'll never forget that story because I was like, damn. I was like, some of these rumors are really true, you know? So, yeah, I always thought it was pretty cool. Just I heard that from someone's experience.
The last rock star.
Yeah, pretty much. Have you ever like been denied by anybody for the stickers? Or trading cards now?
Not denied directly because they didn't want us to do it, but they were too humble. They thought it would be weird, and they weren't comfortable with it. So because they kind of had that attitude, we didn't go ahead and do it. I won't mention who the musician is, but I'm trying to think. No one's ever really been denied. And like I said, the fact that Abbott and Pike and Tom G and Wino has them all over his guitar case. I saw him acoustic with Zaster a couple of years ago, and every guitar case had that purple Shadebeast sticker on it. So I'm like, if my heroes don't mind us sort of paying this kind of tribute to them, then I don't understand why a smaller, more up-and-coming band would not be flattered by it. Not that we're a big deal, but I mean, they're in good company. If you look at all the people we've put on those stickers, we're kind of considering them big influences or significant people, you know?
Yeah, there's actually people that you put on stickers. I didn't even know who the hell they were. I was always gotta like look them up because I'm like, yeah, I wonder who this guy is, you know? So
there have been a couple that were benefit stickers. So like a couple local people who'd been injured or had health issues, so we issued a sticker and asked for donations in order to get them. But that was a couple years ago. Since then, we've gone with much more significant folks. What I have learned is not to asking people's permission sometimes gets them involved, and they have a preference about which photograph we use, which can derail things and slow things down a bit. So it's easier to ask forgiveness and obey the cease and desist than it is to get someone involved in their own sticker design, because they tend to be too picky about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, since you had the Cliff one, I was gonna ask if you tried to do the classic era Metallica series at any time and got turned down.
No, and actually, I kind of the sort of the spirit of these stickers is to have it be the unsung heroes and the cult following type folks. So I definitely wouldn't do James or Lars.
Okay.
We talked about, I don't know if you've seen our shirts, but there's an artist, Max Siebel, who does this style of sort of zombie illustration of of people. He did a Lemmy one, and then he later did one of Tony Iommi, um, like undead versions of people. And there was an opportunity where I was going to possibly be in the same place as Kirk Hammett, so we wanted to kind of do an undead Kirk T-shirt so that we could give it to Kirk when we met him. It didn't wind up happening, and we didn't do the shirt, so that's just fine. That's probably the closest to the classic Metallica that we'd feature on something. I think with the new trading cards, if we wind up doing like a thrash series, it would be impossible to ignore the Metallica guys. But until then, I don't think we'll be doing a sticker of James or Lars or Kirk.
Gotcha. So the trading cards, like I haven't seen them yet because they're pretty new. Do you just have like the face on one side and some like stats or something on the back, like a
Yeah,
little baseball card or something like that?
yeah, that's the idea. Similar
That's
to,
cool, man.
I've always thought that was a good idea, and I know there were thrash cards back in the 80s or early 90s. But aside from that, I've never really seen rock cards with like musicians on them, and it just seems like something that would be ripe for doing that. But it's very time consuming and compiling the information on the back. And it wasn't until this coronavirus lockdown that I thought, well, now I have time. I mean, I have more time than I know what to do with. So now's the time to maybe look into doing these, because you have to, the fronts that we're doing, I'm applying an illustrated effect to people's faces to make them look a little more illustrated, like a graphic novel illustration. And then the backs, basically, since we're keeping it oriented towards the musician, not their band, it's basically just their name, their skill, like their powers. We're calling it their powers, whether what they play, if they sing, write songs, the groups that they've been affiliated with, and then like a brief, like select discography, like the most significant releases of the person's career. So similar to a baseball card, but a little more simplified.
Okay. Yeah, I have to check some of those out sooner or later. I actually got an order I'm gonna put in here pretty soon, so maybe you'll send me some up.
Oh, I'll hook you up with all of them. They're really fun to do. I mean, I'm hoping that people aren't going to get their feathers ruffled by the fact that they're on one, because again, we're just doing them as a tribute and an artistic
Right.
project, and with as much respect as we can possibly apply to it. So this first series is focused on doom musicians of the doom metal world, and when we get to 12, I'll release the whole 12 pack with a secret sticker and the stale piece of bubble gum in there and everything, just like the Star Wars cards of 1979. But yeah, it's just a fun thing to do, and it's something to give away with purchases as like a freebie to put in the package and to encourage people to keep on shopping with us so they can collect them all. But again, people asked if there was a way to acquire them without purchase, so we put them up there as a quote unquote donation to help cover the cost of production. People seem to be into them. They seem to have more interest than the stickers, even, because they're outright like collectible cards. That's the purpose of them, is to collect them. Surprisingly, Robert Lowe, the former vocalist of Candlemass, and he's now in Tyrant, his PR person actually reached out to me about being on one of the cards, which was surprising. And they asked about the terms, and I'm like, well, we're not really operating under any sort of a contract, and I don't anticipate them making money. But if for some reason they really take off and they become some kind of a big product, then we would basically split the net profits with the person or the organization on the card.
I envision like in the future, like there might be like a tops like catalog with like values of cards or something one day. You know,
Yeah,
like
if we make
Kirk Weinstein editions going for like $8
yeah,
or something like that. You know.
yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm waiting for someone to steal the idea. I mean, I think it's a great idea. A lot of people have probably thought of it, but actually doing something is the bigger battle, you know. And with all the time I've got on my hands, I'm just cranking them out. there's no real protection besides declaring them copyrighted to stop Tops or somebody from doing something like that. But I mean, we're coming from the underground. We are actually like a roots indie metal organization. So hopefully
Right.
that would be our ace up our sleeve, is that if someone like Tops or some card company comes out and starts doing them, they're just going to smell bogus. It's just going to be a money grab. But the way we're doing it is really more, honestly, an homage, like a tribute and a artistic project.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. When you started them, I was like, man, that's a sweet idea. I really appreciate the creativity for like all the stuff that you come up with, like the artist series shirts that you have going, and just the stickers, and even sending like oddball shit in your packages. Like
Appreciate
for
that.
instance, we gave away the Barbarian Queen 2 VHS that you sent us up, which I thought was hilarious.
Right.
The dude said he had a VCR connected to his projector and he was going to watch it and send a picture, but he never did, which I was kind of disappointed about.
VHS has a big following. Like VHS is sort of, there's a subculture associated with, especially with like horror movies. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but in the shop, our current shop, we actually have an old TV with VCR hooked up, and we've got kind of a limited selection of old concert videos like AC/DC, Rush, The Song Remains the Same, stuff like that. And it's oddly compelling. Like we'll always have something playing like on Saturdays when I'm in there, and people will come in and they just sort of get engrossed in watching it. It's pretty cool. There's something a little more, something intangible about VHS that you can't really put your finger on, just like vinyl versus digital. There's a nostalgia aspect that kind of sucks you in. It's interesting.
It's the analog effect, man. It's the fact that most analog stuff that was any quality, you actually had to like seek out and buy, versus just look for it on the internet and rip it or download it and have
Yeah, yeah.
like a subpar version of it, like MP3 or stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I really think it's just like the effort to find and acquire analog is why people really hold on to that format, whether it's VHS or vinyl or even cassette. It's kind of making a comeback somewhat.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think it's just the tangible, like holding in your hand, seek it out, own it, kind of thing. That I think people like when I grew up in the 80s, really hold on to that from their childhood. Because I mean, I
yeah.
know when I would look for something and I found it, man, I was like so happy, like I accomplished something.
Well, it's the hunt, the fun of the hunt, like looking
Yeah,
for that elusive record or comic book or whatever that you want. The seeking of it is half the fun. And yeah, I like, to your earlier point, I really myself really like physical things. Like I like books and records and magazines, and I like getting information and appreciating art in that way, just because of the era that I grew up in. Um, so I think a lot of people miss that, and to really young kids that didn't grow up in that era, they think they find it kind of interesting too. Like sort of, there's like an artifact aspect to it. Like this is vintage, the way things used to be. So it's appealing for that reason.
yeah. I mean, I remember like when I was like 15, 16. Like I remember like having my mom take me out to like Asheville, and I'd be like, okay, like just drop me off like at the mall, and like the whole
Hmm.
area around the mall, like even outside the mall, there was like music stores, movie stores, stuff like that. I was like, just leave me there for like 3 or 4 hours, and then come get
Yeah.
me, where you dropped me off, and I'm just gonna go like try to find this stuff that I've been needing, like money I've been
Hmm.
saving up with like yard mowing or whatever. And I would just go out and like just browse. I would hit like all of the music stores in the mall, which there was like three of them, and then I would like walk across the street and there was like a Blockbuster Music where you could actually like listen to shit before you bought it. So I would just like stay
Yeah.
in there and like ask him like weird bands like the dude never heard of. I'd be like, do you have like the Overkill album "Fuck You" on CD by any chance? He's like, what the hell, just shit like that. Because I was such a completionist for my CD collections. I would like have to have every single one. And then I
Yep.
bought the Risk album, and that pretty much ended that obsession of mine. But it's for another time. But yeah, it was fun, man. I always enjoyed it.
It used to be so hard to get things. Like you'd read about something, say in a music magazine, like an album from a couple of years ago, and
Yep.
unless you lived in a big city, like you couldn't just go around and find it in the store, and there was no real mail order, obviously no internet, so it's like precious items that you had no way of acquiring. So if you'd go to another town, if obviously you'd hit the record stores to see if they had your want list.
Yeah, I remember going to like when we go to grocery shopping, like at the Food Lion that used to be open in town I live in. They
Mhm.
actually got like Metal Edge magazine,
Yeah.
which I
Yep.
would buy like religiously, and I would go through there and I would just like look at either the musician or the album or the advertisements or whatever, and I would just like buy it based on like how it looked. Like I
Yeah.
don't know why, but I remember this advertisement for like a Vince Neil solo album, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I should buy this. They seem to speak really highly of it, and I
Yeah.
went out and bought it and kind of regretted it, but yeah, but it's just stuff like that where you just couldn't listen to it and know that you probably should save your money. Like you had to take a chance on it. Like there was just no other way to find out other than buying it. And if you struck gold on a really good one, then you were just like, yes. But a lot of times you would strike out. I would say there was more strikeouts than finding gold with
Mhm.
that process for sure. But it was still fun. I still got some of those shitty CDs too.
It definitely was a mix of like striking gold and total like disappointment. I think the biggest piece of gold I ever struck was when I was first getting into punk rock when I was literally like 15 years old. I went to this record store and I saw in the clearance bin they had Iggy and the Stooges Raw Power, and I was like, oh, Iggy Pop, he supposedly has something to do with punk rock, like back in the '60s or something. So I bought it and brought it home, and man, like it blew my mind. Like it was as good as Black Flag and the Circle Jerks. These are these punk bands that I was into. So it was fun to kind of discover that. Obviously, I'd heard of Iggy Pop, but I basically discovered that record in the wild on my own, which was an amazing experience. But like you said, it's not always like that.
Oh no! I still have some of my mistakes. I'll call them in my CD collection. I like to bring them out every once in a while and just like listen to one, just see if it's still as bad as I remember, and it always is.
Yeah.
It's just not some hope. There's just some not some hope for some music, ever being good.
Hmm.
Who would you say is the biggest artist that you've had come in the store in person?
In person, definitely Matt Pike. Sleep were in town, and he came by, hung out for a bit. Um, there were no customers in the store at the time, which was cool because Marcus and my daughter and I got to have his attention all to ourselves. And I was waiting for customers to come in and just have see their jaws drop, especially like metal fans. But no one actually
Yeah,
came in. Um, but as far as like, let's see, Reed Raleigh of the Obsessed and Wake came in a couple months ago. He was traveling with Death Angel. Lots of local bands, basically all the bands that come through town that are heavy. A lot of times, because like I was saying earlier, this community is so tightly knit and connected together via social media. If you're in a heavy band, you may or most likely have at least heard of Shadebeast. So people come by just to kind of check it out. And we started sponsoring shows about a year ago. So the bands that are coming to town because we're asking them to, they definitely come by. And a lot of times we're sort of like an extended green room for them. Like they'll get to town, check into a hotel or whatever, and then several times have hung out at Shadebeast for a few hours before sound check, which is cool.
yeah, that sounds awesome. Like I said, we really need to get down there next year. I'm not making a point to. We never even played in Georgia before, so
Really? Wow.
we didn't make it a point to get in there. Yeah, for some reason it just never worked out. So the Shape Beast Fest that was announced for this year obviously got canceled.
Hmm.
So now it's scheduled for next year, and the artwork for that poster that you put on a shirt now is it's fucking awesome. By the way, I'm actually thinking about picking that one up just because it's fucking sweet looking.
Yeah, that artist Chris Perry, we were lucky enough to have him call Athens his home for, I guess, 20 years or so. He's up in Durham, North Carolina now, unfortunately, but we still consider him part of the Shadebeast family, and he's done, I think, 3 shirts for us, and did that poster art, which was going to be the physical posters and all of the social media um, posts and stuff. But when the fest got canceled, we don't want to wait until next year to use it, so let's just do some shirts, and I think we're going to do some screen printed posters too of that same art. And
Oh, okay.
but yeah, he's an amazing artist. And you've seen his posters, you've seen his shirts. He's done stuff for everybody. Buzz Oven, Kylisa, dozens, if not hundreds, of gig posters. He's really prolific. And you can find him on the internet, by the way, under Sinister Illustration.
Okay. So yeah, there's some bands that you had booked, well, still have booked, I guess, for 2021. So you got Horse Burner, who we're pretty good friends with. You have Yatra, who we've played with before.
Mm-hmm.
All Hell is also from Asheville, playing it. You know, we debated, like, I think the Sunday show was like a really late start, and we went back and forth since it was like a 4 o'clock start time. Like, I was afraid that we wouldn't have enough time to like really sit and sell merch afterwards before we had to like kind of pack up and leave to go back home.
Yeah.
It's like a 3 hour drive. So I'm hoping next year, like maybe since you got like an extra year to like do planning, I'm hoping next year, like maybe Sunday could be like an all day thing. We could actually come down and play without like having to rush off. You know, plus we'll have a new album out.
Yeah.
So
Well, if not on that fest, we'll try to get you on another date somehow. We the right before the virus hit, we were kind of in this rhythm of doing like a Sunday showcase at a place here called World Famous, which is a smaller bar and restaurant type place with a stage. And the intention of those shows was to kind of grab a touring band on their downtime on their Sunday, to pull them in just to fill a gap in their tour, and to allow 1 or 2 local bands a shot at just having maybe their first show. And I know a couple of bands played their very first shows on those Sunday showcases. And then we were also doing with Caledonia Lounge, on average, at least a show a month of heavy bands with slightly bigger draw, since that's a bigger club. So things, Daniel and Marcus, the Shadebeast Presents arm of things, were really doing an amazing job of getting bands here that I didn't really think would come. And several of them made the actual point of setting a date to come to Athens. So it really was getting to the point where I was starting to think, well, this is going to get kind of big, and we're building a scene here. So I think we may start getting bigger and bigger bands, and move up the clubs that were hosting these, move up to the 40 Watt or maybe the Georgia Theater eventually.
Yeah, I sent Daniel a email. I told him, like, you know, if he had more room for bands next year to like keep us in mind with a year in advance, we shouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, I would think
making it happen. Plus, Chad won't have just started his new job, so it should be a little easier to do Sunday shows out of town for sure.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the lineup of the fest this year that was going to happen, and I can see that just keep on getting bigger, because Athens is a music town, and we've got the venues just like Asheville. We can move up to 500 to 5,000 or whatever. I mean, it's not really, it's only limited by the amount of people that we can get to come attend.
Yeah, the lineup was awesome, man. I remember seeing it. It's like, damn, I was like, wish it would have worked out, because our name would look good on that poster as well. But hopefully next year something can work out. Just if Daniel's listening, just check your email. I sent you one for a follow up to that.
Hard to say when shows are actually going to resume. I was thinking maybe by August, but I guess it's up to the bars and clubs to be open. And once they're operating, then we'll try to start putting things on the calendar again.
Yeah, all the venues up here, I think, are booking for June in case like everything's allowed. But they just like reopen like national parks like this weekend, I think, or state parks are opening up this weekend. So it'll probably be a while for the venues to get to open up with even limited capacity.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of what
I
I
don't know.
figured.
We'll see. I mean, who knows? I mean, like I know Heavy Mountain was canceled because it just wasn't a sure thing for September to be up and going, and plus, like tour routing was like a nightmare because nobody really knew what was going on, so nobody could really commit to coming all the way to Asheville for one show if they weren't touring and stuff.
Mhm.
So it's just on hold till next year, which I kind of figured it would be, but that's the realities of it, I guess,
Completely
nowadays.
understandable.
All right, man. Well, let's get to the lightning round. I'll just ask you some questions and just tell me which one you think is better.
Okay.
So some of these are pretty stupid, some are pretty fun or pretty serious. So
Okay.
I was like mixing it up. Okay, Merciful Fate or King Diamond?
Merciful Fate.
I agree. Better Scandinavian metal, Swedish or Norwegian?
Norwegian.
Okay, I went Swedish on that one. Better format, not vinyl, CD or cassette?
Oh, I'm fonder of cassettes for nostalgia reasons and art, like just as art pieces, but obviously CDs are more durable and sound good, sound perfect, you know?
Yeah,
And they
I
can,
grew up on CDs, so I'm a CD person myself. I mean, I like vinyl first, but then CD is like my second.
I came across some CDs in a thrift store a couple months ago. Someone had either dumped their metal collection or somebody had sold it behind their back. And there was all these incredible CDs in there, like just everything, like High on Fire, Mastodon, Torch, Weed Eater, lots of stoner metal stuff, and all in excellent shape. And I was like, these are really nice pieces. I hadn't really bought a CD in I don't even know how long, maybe 15 years, but just seeing them all at once in this deluxe packaging, I kind of was like, CDs may make a comeback. They may come back.
The thing about CDs is like I'm really into collecting CDs with like DVDs included with them.
Hmm.
So like I got like some Opeth albums that have like full making of documentaries. I got like a couple albums with like live concert, like a full concert DVDs included with them and stuff. So
Right.
like I actually look for that kind of stuff too when I buy, just to have something extra I can watch. Because
Yeah.
I mean I watch a lot of music documentaries. So like if I could just own them, that's even better. You know.
Hmm. Well, I'm kind of a packaging nerd. So, like, if something, the product itself, the packaging, the artwork is cool, I'm a sucker for it. Like the CDs I was just mentioning had Torch's Neanderthal CD in there, and the booklet expands to like 16 panels. It's like 3 feet wide if you completely unfold
Oh
it.
wow.
And it had that illustrated artwork throughout it, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, so that was a keeper. I didn't let that one go.
Did you get the new Tool album CD with like the LCD screen or some shit built into it?
I did not get any of those, and I didn't get any from the store because I was confused when I looked at the wholesale price of it. I think those sold for like $50 or $60, and so the wholesale price was somewhere around $40. And I was like, I couldn't understand how they had the gall to charge $40 for a compact disc. So I passed, and then, like with all hot releases, you have about 3 days to put your order in, and then they're all sold out. So once I
Right.
found out they had all that cool stuff, they were long gone and missed the window.
Yeah, actually, I haven't even listened to that album. I'm not really a big Tool fan, but that did kind of intrigue me. Just to, if I ever laid eyes on one, just to check it out, just to see how they did that. But
Mhm.
I don't lose much sleep over it. Not owning it.
Speaking of gimmicks, we just got some Rush reissues in for the store, vinyl reissues, and some of them are hologram editions. So the record has etched into the vinyl grooves so that when the light hits it, it creates a hologram in the air above the record. I
Huh.
I've never actually seen one in person before. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find a YouTube video or something on that and see how that looks. Man, that sounds
Yeah,
pretty intriguing, actually.
yeah, they're definitely there. And I'd heard about it maybe 6 or 7 years ago and thought it sounded kind of dumb. But I mean, if you're going to play a record anyway, you might as well have something trippy to look at while you're sitting there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, people pay to go see a Dio hologram, so might as well have one in the living room too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back on track here. Let's see. Trading cards or stickers?
Trading cards at this point.
Okay. Master of Reality or Volume 4?
Oh, that's impossible to answer.
You gotta pick one.
Master of Reality.
Yeah, that is a catch-22 question, I know, but
You know,
I
yeah,
like some questions that make people squirm.
we could do this whole podcast about like the first 6 or 8 Sabbath albums. You know, it's like I never get tired of talking about that band or music.
Dude, if you want to do that in the future, like I can get Micah on here too, and we can just like go through them and like we could do a whole series or whatever. Man, I'm all about it. So
Cool.
yeah, just let me know.
Sounds good.
Power metal or traditional metal?
Traditional metal.
Yeah, I think I'm being a little more traditional too, but a lot of power metal has traditional elements in it, so it's almost the same sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I do dig power metal, but just not. I don't encounter as much of it as I like as say like traditional stuff like
Oh,
Haunt,
okay, I got you. Beavis and Butthead or Metalocalypse?
Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, it's hard to go. It's hard to go against the original, but I do
They're,
love Metalocalypse a lot too.
it's hilarious, but you know, Beavis and Butthead are like the original Heshers. Well, not the original, but classic. Just a lot of the metal fans that you meet, those are those guys. You know.
Yeah, I mean, the episode Couch Fishing, I think it was like one of the first ones I ever saw, and I just remember that so vividly, like just laughing. And the videos they played were fucking amazing. Like the ones that the ones that they didn't make fun of were amazing. I mean, sometimes they put some like winger on there or something like that for a joke, but I mean the real good ones that apparently Mike Judge was a big fan of and wanted to like promote were like they're all like A+ bands and videos. So that was a really cool time, man, for music fandom.
Yeah. The funny thing about Beavis and Butthead is before I ever saw that, my housemates and I used to do pretty much what those two did. Like we'd watch MTV and just shit talk about the videos and see who'd
Yeah,
be the most scathing and insulting to the artists that were playing. Unless it was like Headbangers Ball and then something cool came on, we were just like awe stricken, you know? Like but yeah. Beavis and Butthead were
let me play devil's advocate on that one. Were you guys also virgins?
no, I don't think
Oh, okay, all right. I was just wondering. Let's see. Sleep or High on Fire?
so. I'll have to go with High on Fire. I mean, I love both
Yeah, I
those
think
bands.
I'm with you on that one. All right, man. Last one here. Better place to buy vinyl: Walmart or Cracker Barrel?
Walmart, I guess. I didn't even know Cracker Barrel sold vinyl.
Yeah, actually they do. If you look hard enough, you can find like Bob Seger's greatest hits or
Are you serious?
something of that nature. Yeah, it's there. You just
Wow,
gotta really hunt for it.
amazing.
It's mostly like old country reissues too, but
I haven't really spent a lot of time like in that gift area part of Cracker Barrel. Um,
well, if my wife ever listens to this, I'll apologize now. But dude, having a daughter, like an infant daughter, like
uh-huh.
the clothes are just like this. It's like a moth going to a light, man. Like she just can't help herself. It's just like you go in, and she's like, "I promise I won't go shopping." And she's like, I gotta go to the bathroom." When she comes back into the restaurant,
Uh-huh.
she comes in with a bag of like clothes and shit.
Hmm.
So like, so yeah, I've been in the gift shop more than I care to, and I've looked all through there, and yeah, There's vinyl records there for sale, and I browse through them every single time, and it's always the same ones,
I'll have to check it
always.
out. Yeah.
So,
Well, that's there you go. That's why vinyl sales are so through the roof, is because weird places like that are selling stuff that people just keep on buying forever and ever.
have you bought a record from Walmart?
I never have, no.
My wife got a 400 greatest hits in red vinyl from there. I was like, you can't buy red vinyl from Walmart. It's like it's against code. Like I don't know what code it is, but there is one out there, and you just broke it.
Huh.
And she's like, I don't care. I was like, okay, whatever. So yeah,
But
I have fun messing with her.
I did find the Caius reissues at Barnes and Noble. I was just kind of like looking through the record bins with no expectations whatsoever. Came across Welcome to Sky Valley and the other one, first one, and I was like, "What? What? I got to buy this." So I think that's the only vinyl I've ever bought from a non-record store.
That's a pretty obscure band for such a big chain like that. I'm not saying
Yeah,
they're obscure. I'm just saying like that kind of band and that kind of store is a little awkward.
yeah, it was really strange. So that's why I had to grab it. And then those reissues sold out everywhere too. So I'm glad I grabbed them because they became fairly hard to get after that.
Are there any reissues or releases coming out in the near future you're pretty excited about stocking?
Uh, the other one that comes to mind is the first Opeth album.
Is it Orchid? Yeah, I think it is Orchid.
Uh, But yeah, they're reissuing that, and I think it's a double 2 LP deluxe set, and I already have my order in because I don't want to miss that. The reissues, I haven't heard of many. I feel like the virus has kind of put a damper on releases as well. There aren't a lot of like big releases that I'm seeing advertised or getting bulletins about. People are still putting out independent stuff, obviously, but as far as major reissues or like big A-list band releases, I cannot think of any off the top of my head.
So the only ones I've seen that really caught my attention was Merciful Fates re-releasing, I think their first three albums on vinyl, but they're not remasters. They're just like right from the source and cut to vinyl. So I'm pretty stoked about that because I actually don't have any Merciful Fate vinyls,
Nice.
especially Melissa and what's the first one? I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, yeah, the first one of Melissa, I don't have those, and those are like some classic albums. So
Mhm. For
I'm pretty
sure.
stoked about those. Yeah, yeah, I think they're doing a colored and black, so
Yeah.
this should be pretty cool.
The on kind of on this topic, one of the things that's been kind of frustrating over the past couple years of running the record store part of Shadebeast is kind of figuring out what people want and like ordering the right amount of things. And I always seem to, or often will err on the wrong side. Like I'll get maybe 5 copies of something and it's a huge release, like Bell Witch's Mirror Reaper album. I was woefully understocked for how popular that wound up being. And then there'll be things that I think are going to be big, and I'll get like 30 copies, and it just doesn't move. Like there's no interest. So to kind of deal with that, one of the sort of adjustments that we're making with the vinyl that we carry is we're really going to focus on like classic and essential records that people always seem to buy, and maybe let maybe 10 to 20% of the business be new releases and current stuff, because that seems to be where our sales wind up. You know, like there'll be something that I think people really want to buy from Shadebeast, but they won't buy many because everyone's pre-ordered it from the label or through Bandcamp. So we're just trying to provide a service and not really be like a parasite, you know? Yeah, people just keep on buying the classics like Sleep's Dope Smoker and Acid Baths When the Kite String Pops. I think are probably the two biggest selling records of our since we've been in business. We've easily sold more than 50 to 60 copies of that Acid Bath record, and every time we get it in stock, it sells out. It's crazy.
Oh, that first Merciful Fate album is "Don't Break the Oath." It just came to me while you were talking. So yeah,
Yeah,
"Don't Break the Oath" and "Melissa" are being reissued. Yeah.
I was gonna say that, but I was afraid that was the wrong band. But yeah,
No, you were right. I just like this time of night, I start forgetting stuff I should know. So sometimes it takes me a while to remember.
yeah.
Getting old.
Well, it's like when you go into a record store or a bookstore, you immediately forget everything that you've been wanting for the past 6 months. You
Oh
cannot
yeah.
remember. So you have to keep a list. Being kind of in the record selling trade, there's so many names, so many band members, so many releases. It all starts to run together sometimes, and it's like takes me like 30 seconds to remember who that was or what that record name was and such and such.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I'm pretty good acquaintances with Patrick Whitaker, who writes for Riff Relevant.
Hmm.
And man, that dude, like, he'll be telling me about somebody like I've never heard of, and he'll know like 5 or 6 bands that I probably never heard of that guy's played in. I'm
Hmm.
like, dude, how do you know all this stuff, man? He just knows it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like mainstream or just at the local level. If he's into it, man, he's really into it. So, yeah, some people just like have a knack for just remembering
Oh yeah,
a lot of useless information in the grand scheme of things. But that's his job. So I mean, he does it well. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
The customers that come into Shadebeast remind me on a regular basis that I don't really know shit about music. I mean, I think I do, but like they can name every member of a band, like of Saxon or everyone who's ever been in Thin Lizzy, and I'm just like, how the fuck do you remember all this? Like I don't have that kind of data storage capabilities.
yeah. Like Biff Byford's the only Saxon member I know. I mean, I know there's probably been other ones, but I can tell you one of them
Yeah.
right now.
I mean, let me go ahead and name drop like Thomas Dale, uh, Justin Norris, and John Mincemoyer. Those three people I can name off the top of my head who come into the store, and they're just like encyclopedias of metal knowledge. I'm like, they're talking over my head half the time. Or if I need facts, I'm like, what was the name of the third song on that second record? And they know it. I'm like, wow, crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I've never been that good at stuff like that. Like, there's a few albums I could probably tell you track listing front to back. But it's very far and few in between.
Yep.
Like, pretty much the classic Metallica albums, I can do that. I probably do the first 2 Pantera albums, and maybe like South of Heaven,
Yeah.
Slayer, and
Yeah. Same here. And
White Zombies, Devil Music Volume 1. I know that one pretty well. Even though right now I probably couldn't remember half of them because it's been so long since I listened to that album.
well, my problem is there was a good 10 or 15 years where I didn't listen to metal that much, and I probably shouldn't admit that. But around the time when Pantera came around, like 92 or so, I started listening to a lot of indie rock and hip hop and stuff. And I literally, and grunge, of course, and spent most of the 90s just listening to like rock and weird stuff until like the late 90s. A lot of electronic stuff that was coming out was really cool, like the breakbeat stuff or trip hop and stuff. And it wasn't really until about 2005 when like the stoner metal thing started coming back around again. Um, People hate this band Wolf Mother, but the first Wolf Mother album, the first Sword album, I found out about High on Fire and Torch around that time, and that really just sort of relit the fire for me, and I got heavily into metal at that point, and really haven't bothered with any other genre since then.
So it's funny you mentioned Wolf Mother and the Sword because they were supposed to play. They were supposed to open for Primus on the
Yeah.
Farewell to Kings tour they were doing, covering the Rush album.
Hmm.
So I was actually like surprised that the Sword actually got back together for that. But they're releasing like 2 compilation albums, and they're kind of
Hmm.
cool sounding. But I don't know if I'll buy either one of them because I think I've heard a lot of that stuff before.
Yeah, I'm so familiar with all the records. I don't think I'd really need a compilation. unless it had some unreleased stuff on it.
Well, some of it is like unreleased, and some of it's like demos, and some is like cover songs and stuff for like the vinyl one, and then the CD one I think is just like almost essentially like a greatest hits package or something like that. But it's funny you mentioned Wolf Mother because like I actually like Wolf Mother pretty good, even though I've never seen them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know what you mean by people like hating on them. Like I'm not really sure why, but it's just one of those bands like
Yeah, I don't think you can say. Obviously, their first record was their best, and they kind of lost it after the drummer and bass player, the original rhythm section, left. But anything you can say about them, you can say about most doom or stoner metal bands, or at least a lot of them. They're being derivative and recycling riffs and sounding like they're trying to conjure up decades past. So I don't really understand the hatred, but at the same time, I'm probably biased because I saw them at a tiny little club in Atlanta called the Drunken Unicorn in 2006. It was like their first U.S. tour, and there were only about 30 people there, and I got to talk to Andrew and stuff. So I felt like they were an underground band, and then they went big, and now they're like a commercial act and stuff. But I still think of them as like coming from our world, like being an indie band.
Yeah, they're from Australia, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way about the Sword. Like, I feel like when their original drummer, like, I can't remember his name right now. The one who played on the first 3 albums.
Yeah.
I feel like when he left, like their sound like kind of changed for me. Like it just didn't feel as dynamic and like exciting anymore. I mean, I thought Acrophone was a pretty good album,
Mm-hmm.
but like I didn't really much care for High Country too much, and I really disliked Used Future a lot. Like that album was like just felt so lazy to me. And then like when I was reading shit about like Kyle Shutt saying like they're not going to tour anymore because people quit coming out, I'm like, dude, that's kind of a cop out because your last couple albums really haven't been all that spectacular, dude. I mean, I was just going to call a spade here.
Metal fans are ferociously loyal as long as you stay within the creative space of metal. But if you get too proggy or too commercial, too verse, chorus, verse, you'll lose your metal fan base, and you kind of can be called a traitor. So it's a thin line sometimes. I think Mastodon have felt that. The Sword have obviously felt it, like the metal ethic or whatever it is that you've got to adhere to.
Were you a fan of Once More Around the Sun album?
That I didn't like it when it first came out, but I've grown to love that record, and it's probably the one that I go back and listen to the most, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I'm pretty biased there too. I mean, I love The Hunter. I mean, a lot of people despise that record, but I think that's a great album too. It's only the most recent one that I have a hard time getting into, simply because the song structures are like the least adventurous. The playing is impeccable and amazing, but song wise, it seems less experimental or adventurous as other records.
So my thing about the last like 3 albums since like Crack the Sky. Mm-hmm. So like after Crack the Sky, like I kind of understood what they were going with the Hunter, because it was pretty different, and I liked about half the songs on that album. Mm-hmm. And I actually really kind of came from a place of understanding of Once More Around the Sun, but I fucking hate that album with a passion. Really? I don't know what it is, man. I listen to it like once a year, like maybe I'll get it, and I really don't. But then when they said they were like using Crack the Sky as an influence for Emperor of Sand, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give these dudes another chance. And I actually really like that album, even though I think it's very copycat of Crack the Sky as far as like the concept album theme and like the whole like one story. Even though the story is pretty fucking dark and brutal, it's like getting diagnosed with cancer and then like dying and going through all the stages. That's a pretty sick shit, dude. I kind of appreciated that. So, yeah, I'm like opposite. I'm opposite of you on as far as like the last few Mastodon releases go.
Yeah, but still, I mean, they're one of the best bands
Oh
happening.
yeah, yeah. I
You
mean,
know.
if they would ever come back to Asheville, I would still go see them, but they never do. So I don't know why, but I guess it's one of those things. Like Braun Gaylor's dad works at a grocery store in Asheville. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he works. Well, I don't know if he still does or not. He used to work at like a kind of a green oriented grocery store with like organics and stuff. You know, because my wife ran into it one time. She was like buying me some beer, and she saw like they released a beer with like the Hunter artwork on it,
Right.
and she picked it up. And the guy was like, "Oh, my son plays in that band," and she's like, "Your son plays in Mastodon?" She's like, "Yeah, he's the drummer." She's like, "Really?" So she was like all excited and had to come back and tell me and everything, you know. So that's how I found out about that. And I used to assume that they come to Asheville just so he could visit his dad. But dude, they haven't played Asheville in like the last 2-3 album cycles. Like nothing. Like they just like kind of forgot about it. And getting back to the Sword, like JD Kronos or Kronos, however you pronounce his name, he lives in Asheville. And dude, they haven't played Asheville in years besides like opening up for Clutch. And they were supposed to play on his Primus tour. That's probably got canceled. But as far as like headlining shows, they haven't played, you know, in I guess 4 or 5 years, you know.
Wow.
When they were touring. Yeah. So I was like, that's some bullshit, man. Like these towns have been nothing but good for you. Like sold out shows are really highly attended. Then you just like drop us like we're fucking nothing, you know? It's like it's kind of a slap in the face, especially when one of them lives here.
It's hard to say what the reasoning is behind that. I mean, when bands start working with booking agents, a lot of time they aren't directly involved with deciding which dates are on their tours and whatnot.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, the Orange Peel works with like AC Entertainment and another one. I mean, it's like the two major booking agencies that book like 1,000 to 2,000 capacity venues. You know, so I mean, if they played there before, I mean, they'll play there again. I mean, well, the way I see it, like I don't see why you would drop it. I mean, there's bigger venues too. Now there's like 2 outdoor venues they could play that hold like 2,000 to 5,000 people. You know, stuff like that. So I mean, there's places to play and to stay with your growth. But I don't know why it's like fell off the face of the earth here all of a sudden, you know. But oh well, that's enough bitching from me about it.
What can you do?
Yeah, just hope they come back one day, I guess. So I'm hoping the Elder and Basque tour happens in November because Mike has kind of got me into that new Elder album pretty good. I'm kind of like wouldn't mind seeing them play that album, at least most of it on tour. I mean, it's fucking short and it's long. It's like 5 songs, like 55 minutes or something. It's insanely long for 5 songs. I mean, it's essentially like an EP, you know, because it's less than 7 songs. So
it's funny. I'm a huge Elder fan, but I've only listened to that twice since it came out. And I don't feel like I've even really cracked into it, like gotten my head around it. So I need to get on that. I'll have to listen to it first thing in the morning.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. I mean, you kind of got to like pick apart to focus on and then just kind of like, absorb it and then move on to the next. I mean, there's a lot in there.
The new Elephant Tree came out on the same day, and I wound up getting totally smitten with that record that day. And, unfortunately, Elder got the short end of the stick, and I didn't get back around to him. But I'll remedy that tomorrow morning for sure.
On an unrelated note to stoner metal, are you a fan of the band Vader, the Polish band?
Yeah, what I've heard of them, I like. I haven't delved into them deeply. Like they're one of those bands, kind of like I don't know, Bolt Thrower, that I recognize as being incredible, but for some reason I haven't had the time to really explore them properly.
Well, I was gonna say their new album just came out. It's like the exact opposite of Elder. It's like 11 songs in 30 minutes, but dude, it is so fucking heavy, man. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I just had a Spotify list recommended to me. I was like, yeah, why the fuck not? And I was like, holy shit. I listened to this whole album on the way home, So yeah. You should check it out. It's worth it.
I will do that. I think the last record that completely blew my mind was the Blood Incantation record, Hidden History of the Human Race. It had a lot of hype around it, and we got it into the store. And I had heard their earlier release, Starspawn, but it didn't really stick out in my mind. But man, that is a heavy, heavy record. Like this psychedelic kind of space death metal.
I'll put that on my list actually right now.
Definitely.
Okay, man. Well, I've took up about an hour and a half of your time. So everyone can find you at shadebeast.com, correct?
That is correct. Yep, we have pivoted because of this crisis, and we're basically just an online business right now. And hopefully, we'll be opening the store up, and hopefully in a couple months.
Are you guys on Discogs by any chance?
I do have an account on there where I would sell more collectible stuff, like used things that we didn't have in the store, but I haven't sold anything through there in quite a while. And when you buy new records from labels and distros, they don't really like you moving them on Discogs, since you're supposed to be retailing and not essentially like selling on the secondary market, which is what Discogs is essentially. But no, just we basically only sell through shadebeast.com now.
I was just wondering because I just started making a Discogs account because I was bored and I was just wondering if you were on there.
It's
I was just like adding my stuff up.
I'm a customer of Discogs, and for sure. I mean, every time there's something that I want that's sold out elsewhere, I'll pay the price and bite the bullet and spend $50 on Discogs for it.
Yeah, there's a lot on there I could blow a lot of money on, but
It's
I've been holding back. You just never know. All right, man. And do you guys still have your Patreon going?
We do actually, and it's kind of shifted. We're now like a private social club out of the store, as well as being a retail store. So through our Patreon sponsorship, you're essentially a member of what we're calling the Shadebeast Social Club. So that means you can come to the lounge in the store and drink beer for free from our beer sponsors. You get discounts on merchandise, free swag like t-shirts and stickers and stuff like that. And if you don't live in Athens, you can still support us through Patreon and get stuff and discounts on shadebeast.com.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Like we do this as Patreon also. Just to make money to put toward the band, since playing out is not a possibility right now. So it's like we just try to get everyone $1 up front.
Everybody's doing what they can to adapt, I think.
Well, me and Mike have been talking about doing a podcast for a long time because, like, sometimes at band practice, like if it's just me and him that show up, we'll just sit there and shoot the shit about music or Star Wars or whatever. And like, dude, we could just do podcast and like do a Patreon. Charge people like $1 a month to listen to us BS and maybe make some money on the side. So when the playing out thing became playing out was not an option, then it was like, yeah, we got time now, we can do this. So yeah, what we do now, just talk to people we know about music.
A lot of people are coming up with like video, like things to do with Zoom, like interviewing bands and things like that. We have a YouTube channel where I was kind of single-handedly interviewing people on the couch at Shadebeast, but I've never really been happy with the production value of that, and we're always talking about doing it properly with multiple cameras and stuff. So I think once things get back to, quote, normal, we'll resume doing Morbid Couch interviews, and there's been some talk of doing another series, just kind of like a casual one, like our intern Olga calls it Shit Talk at Shadebeast. So that might be actually what the title of it becomes.
That's a pretty good name, actually. I like that.
Yeah, well, the concept of that would be just to pick a topic and that two people disagree on and just let them go at it, like the best Black Sabbath album or whether Opeth suck or not,
It's funny that you mentioned best Black Sabbath album. I interviewed the guys from Howlin' Giant, and I asked the guitar player what the best Sabbath album was, and like he would not answer it. I was like, dude, come on, you gotta answer it. He just like wouldn't. He's like, no, fuck it, I'm not answering it.
It's impossible.
Like, all right.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, at least as far as the first 6 go, they're just different chapters of the same body of work. And
well, dude, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I think Paranoid is the worst out of the 6 albums. I really believe that.
No way.
Yes, I do. I do, because I think the song Paranoid is like one of the weakest songs they have in their discography.
Nope.
I'm not saying the Paranoid album is terrible. I just say like out of the first 6, I think it's the weakest. So, but hey, man, we can have that for another time. We can do that podcast on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Social distance, so we can get mad and punch each other.
Exactly. Yeah. Pick other controversial bands.
Black Sabbath is a pretty controversial one because you say something wrong about Sabbath, it's kind of like, it might not have to be your friend after all, you know.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that they actually prefer the Dio era to the Ozzy era, and I'm like, that's a pretty valid point, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
So, I love the Dio era.
I can understand someone preferring those 2 or 3 records, but like discounting it as like the Ozzy era as not being ultra important is idiotic. It's just not even up for.
Well, there wouldn't have been a Dio era without the Ozzy era success. I mean, it's just you gotta give kudos, you gotta give props to where the success came from for sure. So
definitely, it was an evolution.
Yep. Oh well, speaking of that, I forgot one of the questions. Heaven or Hell or Mob Rules?
Oh man,
albums.
I've gone back and forth on that since I was a kid, and just recently I was listening to Heaven and Hell, and I shifted back to Heaven and Hell. I was like, this album's better.
Okay.
I think Heaven and Hell's got better production, but I like the songs on Mob Rules more. But again, I mean, they're just 2 sides of the same coin. They're both ultra important.
The correct answer is whichever one I'm listening to at the time.
Yep, I'd agree with that. I'll take that answer.
Yeah. Okay, man. Well, I took up an hour and a half of your time, so man, I appreciate you coming on. And yeah, it was a blast. If you want to do some more stuff later on, like talking about Sabbath albums or whatever, man, we can do it like on a Saturday night. I'll get Micah and we can just talk it out.
Okay. You can have more than 2 people on this, obviously. Invite.
Yeah. I've actually had 5, including myself at one time. It was quite difficult, but it worked. But yeah, 3 is pretty. 3 is a pretty good number because it's easy to edit. It's not too bad.
Cool.
You don't have to moderate too much. After 3, it gets a little hairy sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There's a lot of using that chat box to communicate, because people are talking over each other. Then you got to space it out or delete unimportant shit someone might have mumbled, in the background. And yeah, so I'd keep it at 2 or 3. So
makes sense.
Yeah, it could be done. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, alrighty, man. Well, I appreciate it, man. It was fun.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, like I said, I'll let you know, and then we'll try to get some of the Shadebeast guys to throw a buck to hear what the Lord of Shadebeast has to say.
Yeah. I'll promote the hell out of it and post about it and stuff. I'm on Facebook jail until Tuesday evening, so I won't be able to do it until then.
Yes, I heard. I was actually on before I got on, and I saw that you posted too much about Oreos.
No, that's not what it was. I was posting some. I posted some R.L. Burnside videos. And this guy and I were talking about how great he is. And there's a couple videos of him from the 70s where his wife and kids are in their room or sitting on a picnic table watching him play. And it always struck me that his wife looks at him like she can't stand him. So in my comment, I said, his wife always looks like she's thinking, this piece of shit doesn't deserve no respect. He's good for nothing. And then I quoted a blues lyric that said, men are beasts and women are the devil. And I guess the women are the devil were the words that got me. That got flagged as hate speech, and bam, I was 7 days after 7 days. It's wow, it doesn't take much anymore.
Did you put in quotations at least?
No, would that have helped?
Maybe that's why. If you're gonna say something misogynist or racist, at least quote the guy who said it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying shit anymore. I'm like gonna just be as generic as possible on there because I use it for Shadebeast stuff, and I can't really afford to be kicked off. So I'm just gonna have to shut my mouth from now on and be more of a
It's unfortunate it comes to that. That's why I just I'm like one of those people that like barely comment. And I'll just like everything. I don't like say shit.
Yeah.
Because like I'll say something, I'll be like, yeah, this is pretty funny, but when it's like out of context or just reading it like real dry or like whatever mood you're in, it can come off as a real like hateful or being an asshole or dismissive. And it's like, no, I didn't really mean it like that at all.
Yeah.
But there's just no context to put it in, so it just sounds like what you want it to sound like. So what am I gonna do? Argue? You know? It's just whatever. All right, man. Cool. Well, I appreciate it, and I'll be back in touch in a few days.
Cool. Talk to you later.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Alehorn Podcast. For more of this podcast and other podcasts in the Alehorn Podcast Network, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/thealehorn. Subscriptions start at $1, and each tier gets you greater perks, such as exclusive Patreon-only podcasts, free song downloads, merch discounts, and more. Until next time, stay heavy.